"You're fired. I've always thought you were incompetent, but I never imagined it would be this bad." Hearing these words first thing upon arriving at the office made my mind go blank. I had moved to New York with nothing but my determination and finally landed a job at a major company. I couldn't afford to quit, so I had endured the unreasonable orders from the CEO's son, who was also my mentor. In a daze, I wandered to my usual coffee shop. When I explained the situation to the female owner, she offered me a job. "Wow, you can do something like this too. That's amazing." Every time I helped her out of a jam, she praised me without reservation. But I didn't know at the time that meeting her at this coffee shop was no coincidence. When I learned her true identity, John Smith, let out a deep sigh as I sat at the counter of my regular coffee shop, White Clover. Despite the ongoing rainy season, the inside of this shop felt completely dry and comfortable. "Susan, I'll have the morning set with a hot coffee," I ordered from Susan, the shop's owner. She stared intently at my face. Seeing her with her flaxen hair tied up in a ponytail made my heart skip a beat. "John, you don't look well. You've been saying you've been working overtime lately. Are you stressed out?" She hit the nail on the head, so I could only give a wry smile without responding. In front of me appeared a tomato and egg sandwich and a cup of hot milk. "Skip the coffee and have this. It has honey in it." "Thank you." I took the cup and sipped the hot milk. Susan's kindness seemed to spread throughout my body. Even my occasionally stress-induced stomach pain was now eased. "Thank you so much, Susan. Your hospitality is amazing. I value every meeting as if it's the only one." Susan smiled happily, puffing out her chest with pride. Her cute gesture made me laugh. Once in a lifetime, right? It means treat someone as if it was the last time to encounter, right? The essence of the saying is deeper than that. Even with regulars like you, John, each moment is unique and won't come again. So, it's important to cherish every encounter, even if it's with the same person. I let out a small sigh and took a bite of the tomato and egg sandwich. Susan's coffee-making skills are excellent, and her personality is lively and friendly to everyone. Most importantly, she is full of kindness and hospitality towards each customer. The fact that she immediately brought up "once in a lifetime" makes me think she might have practiced tea ceremony in the past. I imagined her in a kimono, making tea. She would look perfect. In this space with a faint aroma of coffee, it's just me and Susan. Or maybe this place isn't very popular. Whenever I come here, I rarely see any other customers. I think it's because of her insistence on using old tools. I wish she would switch to new ones. But as a mere customer, I can't say such things, so I keep quiet. "John, you really don't look well. You should take a break from work." "Sure, work is tough, but this company hired me after many rejections. I can't quit." I turned my face away from the worried Susan and looked at my watch. "I have to go now, thanks for the hot milk." I left the payment and rushed out of the shop. I had stayed a bit too long. White Clover is so comfortable that I always end up lingering. Even so, I managed to get to the office before the start time. But my relief quickly turned into a sigh. "John, you're late." Waiting for me in the department was my senior, Jones Joseph. He's my mentor, but he's always hard on me for some reason. Even now, it's still 10 minutes before start time. "Coming in later than your senior must be nice." "I'm sorry, I'll come earlier from tomorrow." "See that you do. As punishment, you'll handle this work today." With that, Joseph dumped a huge amount of web design work on me, impossible to finish within the day. "Senior, by when is this due?" "By today, of course. A high school graduate like you can only manage by sheer volume. If you can't handle even this, you're useless to our company, and I'll have no choice but to fire you." "Okay, I'll do it." Joseph is not only a strict mentor, but also the CEO's son. I've heard stories of people being fired due to his decisions. Despite my resolve, my stomach started to ache again. Susan's kindness had helped, but now the pain was back. I took some painkillers and started working. Even skipping lunch, I couldn't see the end of the work. When the medicine wore off, my stomach began hurting again. I reached for my bag on the floor to take more medicine. At that moment, a sharp pain shot through me. No! I groaned, and my body swayed. I hit my head on the desk and blacked out. When I came to, I was in a hospital. The sterile, rhythmic sound of the EKG echoed in the quiet room. Suddenly, the door to the hospital room opened, and a person who looked like a doctor walked in. "Oh, you're awake. Do you have the strength to listen to me?" I nodded vaguely, and the doctor sat down on a nearby chair. "You collapsed suddenly and hit your head, so we ran a full body scan while you were unconscious. Your head is fine, but you should be careful for a while. If you feel nauseous or dizzy, call an ambulance immediately." "Okay. As for why you collapsed, it seems to be stress-induced gastritis. Haven't you had stomach pain for a while?" "Yes, that's right." "I thought so. You need to stay in the hospital for a day. We'll give you some medication when you leave tomorrow." "No, I have work that needs to be finished today." I looked at the clock and saw that the end of the workday had long passed. But the urgency to get the work done overwhelmed me, and I tried to get out of bed. "You can't. You're on an 4 drip. If the needle breaks and travels through your bloodstream to your heart, do you want that?" The vivid description made me imagine the scene, and I turned pale. I sat back down on the bed, and the doctor, seemingly satisfied, laid me back down and left the room. The next morning, I hurried to work after getting my medicine, only to be greeted by the cold eyes of Joseph. "You're fired." Hearing those words first thing made my mind go blank. Not only can you not do your job properly, but you can't even take care of your health. I've always thought you were incompetent, but I never imagined it would be this bad. You don't need to come to the company anymore. I'll inform the higher-ups. All I could do was watch in a daze as my senior turned on his heel and walked away. Everyone in the department avoided making eye contact with me. I realized that I really had no place here. I gathered my belongings and left the company in a daze, heading to White Clover. The bell on the entrance door chimed pleasantly. The aroma of coffee lifted my spirits a bit. "Welcome, John. It's unusual for you to come at this hour. I get it. You took my advice and took a day off, right?" "I wish that were the case. I got fired." "What?" Susan's eyes widened in shock, and she froze. I thought her reaction was natural as I sat down at my usual counter seat. She stared at me for a moment, then served me hot milk, just like yesterday. "So, I probably won't be able to come here as often anymore. I need to look for a job." The words made my stomach start hurting again. I remembered the cold receptions I faced during my last job search. "Are you sure you're up to working in this condition?" "Even if I'm not, I have to work. I need the money." "I understand, but I think you should focus on getting better first. Didn't you mention before that your father runs a coffee shop? You could go back, help out at home, and recover. Once you're better, you can start job hunting again." "Absolutely not." I banged the table without thinking. Feeling guilty, I lowered my gaze. My stomach hurt. As Susan said, my father runs a coffee shop, but it's never been successful. And his obsession with equipment, beans, and brewing methods led to unnecessary expenses, keeping us poor. My mother died early from illness, and we had to rely solely on my father's income. "Dad, I'm moving to New York." One day in my senior year of high school, I told my father that. As usual, he gave me an inscrutable smile and looked at me. "Is there something you want to do?" "I don't want to be like you, Dad. I don't want to be someone who obsesses over trivial things and sacrifices their family." My father's face darkened. Seeing his expression change from the usual forced smile he showed to customers gave me a sense of satisfaction. At the same time, The anger I had long held towards him began to boil over. Because of your obsessions, the shop has no customers, and we've always been poor. Do you know how much I've suffered because of it? I had to wear hand-me-down clothes and repeatedly fix broken bags. I couldn't read the comics my classmates talked about. I was mocked and felt miserable. People who mock you for such things aren't worth associating with. You don't understand because you don't live in society. This is the digital age. An outdated, analog shop like this will soon be swept away by the tide of technology. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my right cheek. My father had slapped me. It was the first time, and I was stunned. How dare you? I have customers who appreciate my way of doing things. Don't you dare insult them. Anyone who thinks your way is good is just as outdated as you are. You little. My father raised his fist. I closed my eyes, expecting to be hit. But nothing happened. When I cautiously opened my eyes, my father's arm had dropped limply. Fine, go wherever you want. I don't care anymore. For the next few months, my father and I didn't speak at all. Then I moved to New York. Drinking the hot milk eased my stomach pain a bit. Seeing this, Susan sighed. In that case, how about working here? I looked up at Susan's suggestion. If you work here, you don't have to come in when you're not feeling well. As the owner, I can be flexible. But wouldn't that be a burden? Not at all, actually. I've been needing extra help, especially from a man. It's quite a task carrying coffee bean boxes from the entrance. And since your family runs a coffee shop, I wouldn't have to teach you from scratch. It benefits me too. She's probably saying this to make me feel better and not worry. With such a kind offer, I didn't have the energy to refuse. Besides, my stomach feels better when I'm in this coffee shop, and being near Susan is appealing. Then, until I feel better and find my next job, please take care of me. The pleasure is mine. Susan's smile made my stomach pain vanish completely. The next day, I started working at White Clover. Right away. Shouldn't you rest a bit more? Since I was no longer a customer, Susan had stopped using polite language. It felt like we were closer, which made me a little happy. She probably knew this and dropped the formalities. Maybe, but if I'm not working, I'll feel more anxious and stressed. If that's the case, but promise me you'll tell me if you feel unwell. I nodded at Susan's stern look. Even though she looked strict, unlike Joseph, her eyes were full of concern, which reassured me. Since there are no customers right now, let's practice making coffee. With that, Susan began to teach me how to brew coffee, demonstrating as she went. Looking closely behind the counter, I realized that the tools she was using were exactly the same as the ones my father used. The coincidence made my stomach hurt slightly. Now, give it a try. It's your first time, so don't worry if you make mistakes. Encouraged by Susan, I touched the tools. I had learned the method from my father when I was young, so I managed without any trouble. Susan clapped her hands in admiration. Wow, amazing! That was perfect. No, it's just that these tools are the same as the ones my father used. And the procedure too. Oh, I see. Your father must have been wonderful. I found her response odd, but the phrase, wonderful father, bothered me, and I frowned. Not wonderful at all. He was obsessed with tools and coffee beans despite not having money. That's why the shop was always empty. Nowadays, it's more cost-effective to use an aita-enabled automatic coffee maker without all this fuss. Realizing I had said too much, I quickly shut my mouth. When I glanced at Susan, her eyes were predictably sharp. Seeing an expression on her face I'd never seen before made me break out in a cold sweat. Oh, John, so that's what you think of me? No, this is about my father. The tools and procedures were the same, right? I care about the beans and tools too. With a loud thud, Susan placed her hand on the counter. Putting effort into coffee, caring about the tools and beans. It's all because I want our customers to have a good time. Using aita would ruin that. Feeling my pride as someone who worked in aita was being insulted, I glared back at her. How rude to say aita would ruin it. You don't even know how great it is. Oh, so you'll teach me? Yes, how about I make a website for this shop? A website? Oh, that's right. You said you worked at a web design company. I smirked proudly. If this brings in more customers, will you acknowledge how great it is? If it does. Susan turned away with a pout. Her attitude only fueled my determination. I was going to create an amazing website and make her say, "That's amazing." Over the next few days, I dedicated myself to building the website. When I tried to help with the customers, Susan said, "Don't worry about this. Just focus on the website. And don't work outside business hours. It's still part of the job." She seemed a bit sulky, but she showed her support by bringing me coffee and snacks while I worked. As I took photos of the shop and menu for the website, I noticed Susan's attention to detail in her hospitality. The air conditioning kept the place comfortable, and she had placed cool-toned decorations and wind chimes to create a refreshing atmosphere during the summer. She even used different tableware depending on the customer. For cat lovers, she used cat-themed dishes. For customers with kids, plastic dishes that looked like porcelain. And for those who seemed down, dishes with 4-leaf clovers for good luck. I realized that it was Susan's heartfelt hospitality that had drawn me to this shop. Feeling ashamed of my earlier attitude, I focused on the website. Once the website was complete, I created social media accounts for White Clover and promoted it. Excuse me, I saw the website and decided to visit. A few days after launching the website, a customer came in saying, "Thank you, right this way please." Susan greeted the customer with a beaming smile and showed them to a seat. Seeing her so happy made me happy too. "John, can you make 2 coffees, both with light roast beans?" Following her instructions, I brewed the coffee with light roast beans. Susan placed 2 pieces of cheesecake on a tray and served them to the customer with the coffee. The coffee is delicious. It goes perfectly with the cheesecake. The atmosphere of the shop is great too, makes you want to stay longer. The satisfied customer left after a while. As soon as they were out of sight, Susan glanced at me. "I'm sorry, John. I shouldn't have said it would ruin it. The customer said they came because they saw the website. Without the website you made, we wouldn't have met them. So I take it back. It is amazing." Raise your head, Susan. I'm sorry too. I forgot that the charm of this shop comes from your dedicated hospitality. It saved me too. John. Susan looked up at me with slightly teary eyes. Her expression pierced my heart. I always thought she was beautiful, but I never realized she could be this cute too. Thank you, John. Please continue helping with the customers and the promotion. I'll do my best to convey Susan's spirit of hospitality. We shook hands naturally. I felt like I had grown even closer to her. After that, more customers came, saying they found us through the website or through reviews left by other customers. Some liked it so much, they became regulars, visiting almost every week. Unlike the times when I was just a customer, now even on weekdays and outside of lunch or snack times, there was always at least one person in the shop. One hot summer day, I stepped outside to hang the closed sign on the door and heard thunder rumbling in the distance. Suddenly, it started to rain. I thought it was just a passing shower that would stop soon. But even after waiting for a while, it didn't let up. The weather forecast said it would continue all night with a thunderstorm warning in effect. Just then, a loud thunderclap shook the dishes, and Susan let out a scream. Looking closely, I saw her face had turned pale. Are you okay? Oh, sorry, I'm really scared of thunder. Another bolt of lightning struck, and the sound was quite loud. Susan screamed again and clung to my arm. Being so close to her suddenly made my heart race. John, please don't leave tonight, please. Her tearful eyes looked up at me, and I felt like my heart might explode. I told myself to calm down and then nodded at her. She visibly relaxed. You know I sleep on the second floor of the shop, right? There's a spare room, so you can stay there. By the time we had dinner and finished our baths, the storm had moved away. Susan had regained her usual cheerful demeanor. Sorry for imposing on you because of my whim. Have a good rest, good night. She clasped her hands in front of her face and then went into her room. I also got into bed and turned off the light. Just the thought of Susan sleeping under the same roof made my heart race. But I swear I have no intention of doing anything weird. I shut my eyes tightly, trying to fall asleep without thinking about anything. I must have actually fallen asleep, because I woke up to the sound of thunder shaking the house and Susan's scream. Another thunderstorm. As I debated whether to check on her, the door to my room flew open and Susan rushed in. She immediately clung to me. Susan. My face grew hot. But then I noticed she was trembling and I calmed down. It's okay, Susan, I'm here. As I rubbed her back, she relaxed her grip slightly, seeming reassured. But if you're this scared of thunder, what do you do when you're alone? When I'm alone, I hold on to a charm and hide under the covers. But tonight, you're here. Her words made my heart race again. Another bolt of lightning struck, and Susan's grip tightened again. Can we stay like this a bit longer? Of course. I felt like I was burning up, but I tried to act calm. After a few more loud claps of thunder, it seemed to pass. When I listened carefully, I could only hear the sound of rain. Susan, it's okay now. But there was no response. When I looked at her face, she was asleep. I was stunned, but knowing she felt safe enough to sleep beside me made me happy. I gently laid her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. Then, I noticed she was holding something in her right hand. It looked like a pressed full-leaf clover bookmark. Was this the charm she had mentioned? Good night, Susan. I quietly left the room and lay down on the living room sofa to sleep. The next morning, Susan woke up and apologized profusely. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I fell asleep in your room. Her face was bright red. I couldn't help but laugh, which made her blush even more and look down. Could you make me a morning set? I'll have a hot coffee with it. Got it. I'll make you the best breakfast and coffee. True to her word, the breakfast Susan prepared was delicious. Her food was always good, but that morning, enjoyed in the fresh air after the rain, was exceptional. After that incident, Susan and I grew even closer. We sometimes had dinner together, brewed coffee for each other, and competed to see who made the best coffee. One day, while enjoying such fulfilling days, I arrived at the shop as usual and heard Susan arguing with someone inside. Worried it might be another suspicious person, I quickly entered the shop. Standing in front of Susan was an unfamiliar woman with a stern face. Anyway, if you don't pay up quickly, you'll have to leave, she said. Mistaking me for a customer, the woman glanced at me briefly before leaving. Susan, who was that? She's the landlord. Actually, I've been behind on rent. What? Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't want to trouble you with money issues, John. Susan looked down, dejected. We didn't have many customers before, right? I've promised to pay back the overdue rent now that we have more customers, but she's run out of patience. I see. I can cover the rent with my savings if... That's why I didn't tell you. I knew you'd say that. I recoiled at her angry response. Then we need to bring in more customers. But if we want to go beyond this, it'll be hard with just the two of us. As we were brainstorming, the door opened even though we hadn't put out the open sign yet. I was stunned to see who was standing there. It was Joseph. Looks like you're in trouble, John. Joseph, why are you here? I heard you were working at a coffee shop. I thought I'd come see for myself. Hey, get me a coffee. I'll take it hot. He plopped down in a chair and ordered Susan around. Susan glanced at me nervously, When I nodded, she seemed to understand and started preparing the beans. Joseph watched her with a rude gaze. Doing something so tedious in this day and age, no wonder you don't have customers. Don't say such rude things when you don't know anything. This is what makes our shop special. Oh, John, you actually have some nerve. He glared at me, sending a chill down my spine. Unable to respond, I ground my teeth in frustration. Joseph took a sip of the coffee Susan brought him and said, "I see, the taste is indeed good. You're John's senior, right? Do you need something from him?" When Susan asked, Joseph put down his coffee cup and looked up at her. "I overheard your conversation outside. I have connections at a TV station. I could ask them to feature this shop." "Really? But..." As Susan's face lit up with joy, Joseph smirked. "The condition is that John returns to our company." "What? We can't manage without you. I thought we let go of a valuable asset, so I'll forgive you now. Come back to us." Susan's joy vanished in an instant, replaced by anger. "I heard you were the one who fired John, and it was your company that caused his health problems. I can't let him go back there. Then we'll make it a freelance arrangement. He can work here and also do our company's work. If he collapses again from that, no way. Then the offer is off. Watch your shop go under." "That won't happen." Susan and Joseph exchanged heated glares. Eventually, Joseph turned to me. "I'll wait for your answer until tomorrow. Think carefully about which option is best." He finished his coffee and left the shop. I stared at the floor, my mind replaying Susan's joyful smile from earlier. "John, you don't have to listen to him," Susan said, trying to encourage me. But I looked up and met her eyes directly. "Susan, I'm going to accept Joseph's proposal." "John." She looked at me with raised eyebrows. Her eyes filled with worry. Her kindness touched my heart, making me smile. "Susan, I told you before that your way of making coffee is the same as my father's, right? My father, like you, was particular about the beans and tools despite not having much money. Because of that, we were always poor. I wore hand-me-down clothes and never had anything new. Our meals were simple, just rice and one side dish. There were no treats or juice at home like other kids had. I resented my father for that. I rebelled against his traditional coffee-making methods, insisting that the digital age was better. I criticized his ways and left home to come here, but..." I paused and looked around the shop. Today, too, every corner of the shop reflected Susan's spirit of hospitality. "But you know, Susan, I realized something while helping you. Using it to save effort is good, but what's truly important is the spirit of hospitality. I realized my father cherished the concept of once in a lifetime, just like you do. I regret fighting with him and leaving." I clenched my fists to hold back the tears welling up. "That's why I want to protect this shop and Susan's spirit of hospitality. We can't let it go under, please, Susan. Let me do this." Susan's eyebrows furrowed deeply. She opened her mouth to say something, but then closed it and looked down. When she looked up again, she was smiling, but tears glistened in her eyes. "All right, if that's what you've decided, I won't oppose it. But if you're not feeling well, you must let me know. You can take a break from this job." "Got it." And so, I started working at White Clover, while also taking on my former company's work. As expected, the days were busy once I began the freelance work. Every day, I worked at the company except during the lunch and snack rush hours at White Clover. It was hectic, but I always remembered the spirit of hospitality I learned from Susan and applied it to my work. I focused on web design projects and made sure to help my colleagues whenever they seemed to need it. I even brewed coffee for them. "I'm glad you're back, John. Since you left, the workload increased and things got tough, and your coffee is great too," a senior colleague said. I felt a bit bitter, thinking that the extra work was just what I had left behind, but I kept quiet. 2 weeks had passed since I returned to the company. That day, White Clover was scheduled to be featured on TV, and I was determined to finish my work on time and rush to Susan's side. While I was working hard, Joseph stood beside me. "Your web designs are getting more praise from clients. I'll need you to keep working hard." "Yes, sir." I was so focused on my work that my response was somewhat curt. Apparently displeased, Joseph crossed his arms and tapped his bicep with his fingers, showing his irritation. "Why are you in such a hurry?" "Oh, today is the day of the interview at that woman's shop, isn't it? You plan to go. You'd better stay away from that place. It's going to go under anyway." I looked up in surprise. Joseph wore a smug smile. "The TV station I have connections with?" The moment I heard Joseph's words, I dropped everything, work, his angry shouts, all of it, and ran out. I headed straight to Susan. In front of White Clover, a crowd of foreigners had gathered. Susan stood at the center, almost in tears, surrounded by people speaking foreign languages. It turned out the TV station Joseph had connections with was an international one, and they had contacted multiple countries. "Please let me through," I said in English, pushing my way through the reporters and cameramen, and stood protectively in front of Susan. Seeing me, her eyes widened in surprise. "I'll show you around, please come inside." I opened the door and invited them in. The reporters and crew quietly followed me into the shop. Some seemed confused, and I realized they weren't all from English-speaking countries. I tried speaking in Chinese, Korean, and German, and one of those seemed to work, as they all took their seats inside. "John, you came." "Of course, leave them to me, and you just make coffee as usual." Susan wiped away her tears and, with her usual cheerful smile, replied, "Got it." The reporters seemed very pleased with Susan's hospitality, and after the filming, they left with high praise for us. "I'm so glad we managed to get through that," Susan said, collapsing on the spot. I sat down beside her. "Thank you so much, John. Having you here made me feel so strong, and I can't believe you can speak so many languages." "Well, I picked it up from my father. He used to practice for when foreign customers came to our shop, and I listened in. It's like they say, a child of the gate can recite the sutras, so it's thanks to my father. Even so, it doesn't change the fact that you helped me, John." Susan took my hand. My heart skipped a beat. I gently squeezed her hand back, and she smiled at me, her cheeks slightly flushed. When White Clover was featured on international TV, the number of foreign customers surged. Regardless of weekdays or weekends, there was always a line. The news spread on social media overseas, bringing even more customers. It was clear that Susan couldn't handle the influx of customers alone. But with my current schedule, I couldn't help her properly. "Joseph, I want to terminate my freelance contract." I gathered my resolve and said sorry to him. He twisted his face in anger. "What? Do you think that's allowed? I won't accept it. I'm just a high school graduate and useless, so it shouldn't be a problem if I'm gone, right?" "Shut up. A useless person like you should just follow orders without arguing. If you can't, well, I have connections in certain circles, so..." "Stop right there, Joseph." As Joseph began to say something terrifying, a commanding voice echoed through the department. To my astonishment, the company president stood at the entrance of the room, glaring at Joseph with his hands on his hips. "Father, this is..." "No excuses, Joseph. I heard everything." Now it was Joseph's turn to look pale. I looked behind the president and saw the senior colleague who had told me, "I'm glad you're back." He must have brought the president. I felt a wave of gratitude. "Joseph, you fired John, causing chaos in the department, and then had to call him back. You've done a